There's no Neelix cheese here, Chakotay, but I better make sure there isn't any in the library station control. You don't mind if I poke around in this, do you? I think he minds. I better be quick. Hey folks, it's Kikoskia here, and welcome back to Let's Play Star Trek Voyager Elite Force. When last we left off, we got access to security codes that we can use to enter various crew members' rooms. And we read a list of Tom Paris's favourite Captain Proton episodes. Now it's time for us to check out the library station control.
Found on board the Dreadnought gunship, these vessels are fully automated fighters. The offensive weapons built into these craft are very impressive, but what made these machines so deadly was the artificial intelligence. Stored within each fighter is a vast and complex database featuring thousands of years of space warfare strategy.
This is not only a comprehensive database of things in the game, it's also something voiced by the computer. You can turn that voice off if you want, but I'm not going to. You get to see whatever it is floating here, and considering that the screen cuts off here, it doesn't display all of the model at once. It's interesting seeing the game like this, in cutscenes and things like this screen. I've got used to it after joining this Let's Play, but this just brings it into stark contrast. Let's check out the information about the Disnode.
Disnodes are devices used by the Borg as a means of supplying communications to drones within a vessel. Once a drone leaves the vessel, it switches to far-range communications that radically increase the distance of the communication with the collective. Normally well protected and hidden within a Borg vessel, if a Disnode can be destroyed, it will incapacitate any drones linked to it.
Wasn't that well protected, but there's a bit of artistic license there.
This mineral is a distant cousin to the dilithium crystals used to power Federation starships. Found on board the Dreadnought gunship, these energy crystals may be used as a power source for several alien weapons. Prolonged exposure to unshielded crystals can be hazardous to living tissue.
It's a good thing they're shielded then, isn't it? Let's check out the information about energy terminals.
The energy terminal is used aboard Borg vessels to resupply drones with the power needed to keep functioning when they are unable to use a regeneration alcove. Power stations are rare because they are used only in emergency situations when drones must function for an extended duration. Hazard team suits have been outfitted with equipment that allow the use of power siphoned from a Borg energy terminal.
I wonder why we don't have any of these on board. Now let's read the description of the Forge.
The Forge was a gigantic structure in space that housed the Vorsoth and his army of Reavers, super warriors grown from stolen DNA. It also generated a huge power-dampening field that stranded any starships within 149 million kilometers. The Forge was destroyed by Voyager when the intentions of the Vorsoth were discovered.
Oh, so this takes place after that event. Interesting, yet we're still called Ensign Munro. Maybe we just haven't updated our personal log. Let's check out the gestation chamber.
This device was used by the Vorsoth to grow their ultimate warriors, the Reavers. Once the Reaver is at an adult stage, the chamber acts as a hibernation unit that keeps its occupant in stasis until needed.
Got a lot of information, despite us being on the Forge for a very short period.
This is an extremely rare element that has the ability to regulate matter-antimatter reactions in the same fashion as dilithium crystals. Isodesium is not usually used aboard Federation starships because of its rarity and its relatively short lifespan. But the element was of use when it was discovered isodesium could function under the Forge's dampening field when Voyager's dilithium crystals could not.
And we used that to fix up much of the ship. That's isodesium. What about living starship? There's a lot of stuff here.
Vastly different from standard starship technology, the spacecraft built by the Etherians is actually a hybrid of inert materials and living tissue. This ship was grown and outfitted in space and feeds off the radiation produced by stars. It is not a sentient creature, but the ship does have a rudimentary intelligence, and the Etherians treat it with a respect that resembles parents caring for a child.
That's nice to hear. Now let's read about the old shuttle.
This relic of days gone by was discovered on the scavenger's base. Though a total wreck, the shuttlecraft was still an excellent chance to view technology over 70 years old.
It is indeed a wreck. That is a super old shuttle. Really old. Now, plasma filters.
A plasma filter is part of the power network of a Borg cube. These devices are placed randomly throughout a ship to filter out plasma frequency deviations. It has been found that plasma filters are explosive if shot with a high-energy beam.
You'd think that they wouldn't be placed in random places, but the Borg know what's best for the Borg. So say the Borg. Now rejuvenation pods.
More than just suspended animation chambers, these pods also act as medical equipment. A rejuvenation pod is able to scan the occupant's DNA and determine the normal functions of the body. It is then able to determine the best course of medical treatment to correct any damage.
Those sound pretty wonderful. They put the doctor out of a job. And now a sleep chamber.
A minimal crew runs a dreadnought gunship, while the rest of the vessel is operated by a large number of maintenance robots. It is assumed on longer missions that the entire crew would be placed into suspended animation in sleep chambers, while the robots continue to operate the ship.
That implies they're traveling a huge distance. Now teleporters.
Etherian teleporters act similar to dimensional doors and instantly transport an individual from one location on their ship to another. This is vastly superior to current Federation transporter technology, which requires the molecular structure of a body to be broken down and converted into energy for reassembly at a new location.
I wonder if the Etherians shared the knowledge of their technology. And now, the vinculum.
The vinculum is the Borg main processing unit used to connect an entire ship's crew to the Borg collective. It also helps route all communication within the ship. It contains some of the most advanced communication technology ever created. Reports indicate that destruction of a vinculum will result in a power feedback loop that will destroy the host Borg ship.
And that's what happened at the end of that part of the game. Now we go to Federation history. There's going to be a lot of stuff here.
On October 4th, 1957, the Soviet Union launched the first man-made object that was able to successfully achieve an orbit of Earth. Weighing 184 pounds, it circled the Earth every 96 minutes. This leap in technology began the space race, in which the Soviet Union and the United States of America placed a very high importance on the conquest of space.
And that ultimately led to this event.
The culmination of a 238,000-mile journey that took 4 days. The Apollo 11 mission landed on Earth's moon on July 20th, 1969. Flight Commander Neil Armstrong and pilot Buzz Aldrin set down in the Sea of Tranquility in a lunar module named the Eagle. As the first human to ever set foot on the moon, Armstrong spoke the immortal words, "That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind."
It's not surprising that the computer didn't put the gap in what was said by Armstrong there. But it's also interesting that it wasn't emphasized by putting some dots after one of the words. And now, the Voyager probes.
The first spacecraft to bear the name of Voyager, this series of probes was launched beginning in the early 1970s. The main intention of the Voyager program was to study Jupiter, Saturn, and bodies on the outskirts of the solar system. In the late 1990s, Voyager 6 was launched and fell into a black hole many years after leaving the solar system. The probe emerged on the other side of the galaxy in the vicinity of a planet of living machines. These machines completely refitted Voyager 6 for a long return trip, making it unrecognizable to its original creators. En route to Earth, the probe was met by the USS Enterprise, which eventually determined the alien craft was merely returning to Earth to transmit the data it had gathered over the course of its journey.
And that is basically the synopsis of what's happening in the first Star Trek feature-length movie. Then things get more grim with the eugenics war.
The eugenics war started during the 1990s when a group of genetically engineered supermen attempted to take power over the rest of humanity. At one point, these selectively bred humans controlled 40 nations. The most powerful was Khan Noonien Singe, who ruled almost 1/4 of Earth. Due in part to these supermen fighting amongst themselves, terrible wars broke out and entire populations were destroyed. It seemed as if Earth was on the brink of a new dark age, but in 1996, the Supermen were overthrown and peace was restored. Khan was able to escape into space with a group of his followers aboard the sleeper ship SS Botany Bay.
And we never heard from him again, except we did in Star Trek II. And then things get even worse.
Occurring in the mid-21st century, World War III involved the use of nuclear weapons and devastated a large portion of the Earth. Over 600 million lives were lost over the course of the conflict. Much of the planet reverted to a barbaric state in the post-atomic horror. Although records of the times are incomplete, it is known the legal system paid no attention to individual rights and even banned the right to legal counsel.
And then, fortunately, things started to get a bit better.
Warp drive is the means by which Federation starships achieve faster-than-light speeds using the controlled annihilation of matter and antimatter. This technology was invented by Zephram Cochrane in 2061 during the Earth's slow climb out of the destruction left in the wake of World War III. Aided by engineer Lily Sloan, Dr. Cochrane created his spaceship, the Phoenix, in an abandoned missile complex in central Montana. The use of the warp engines on the Phoenix was detected by a nearby Vulcan scout ship and resulted in the first contact with an alien civilization.
And then things got a little bit worse again.
In 2156, because of a dispute over territory, the Romulan Star Empire and Earth fought a war in space using primitive nuclear weapons. This conflict lasted until 2160, when a peace treaty was negotiated over subspace radio. The treaty led to the creation of the Romulan Neutral Zone, which was approximately 1 light-year in width. It was agreed that if either side entered the neutral zone, it would constitute an act of war.
At many times throughout many of the shows was the neutral zone a point of contention. And then this event happened.
The United Federation of Planets was formed in 2161 to act as an interstellar alliance of planetary governments. The Federation oversees a number of activities that include exploration, diplomatic matters, scientific advancement, and trade between member planets. The Federation is governed by the Federation Council, which meets on Earth in San Francisco. As of 2373, the United Federation of Planets had 150 members, spread out over 8,000 light years.
That's quite a group. Then there was the Klingon Empire.
In 2218, the Federation had a disastrous first contact with the Klingon Empire. It led to decades of distrust and violence between the two governments. Tensions reached a peak in 2267, when Klingons issued an ultimatum that all Federation personnel should leave any disputed territories. Unknown to either side, one of the disputed areas contained the planet Organia, which held a highly advanced race of non-corporeal life forms. These life forms imposed the Organian peace treaty on both sides, making armed conflict impossible between the Klingon Empire and the Federation.
Not that it wasn't attempted by the Klingons a few times. Usually by more disparate members. Then you have Duotronics.
Duotronics was a leap forward in computer technology invented by Dr. Richard Daystrom in 2243, when he was only 24 years of age. This advancement won Dr. Daystrom a Nobel Prize and became the basis for all Federation starship computers. Daystrom attempted an even more advanced computer technology known as multitronics, but it ended in failure. After 80 years of service, Duotronics were replaced by the more advanced isolinear chips that are used in today's starships.
The foundation that was built upon to make the Federation what it is. Then the Khitomer Accords.
The explosion of Praxis in 2293, a key energy resource to the Klingon Empire, caused the Empire to realize it could no longer afford to maintain a huge military force. Led by Chancellor Gorkon, the Klingon High Council launched a peace initiative in an attempt to end many years of hostility with the United Federation of Planets. Unfortunately, Gorkon was assassinated, but his daughter was able to continue his work, which was successfully concluded in a peace treaty known as the Khitomer Accords.
And the Khitomer Accords held for a very long time, until the Dominion War, whereupon they were discarded by the leader of the Klingon Empire at that time. They were agreed to again later. Things got really desperate.
The Q are a race which exhibit godlike powers and near omnipotence, yet they seem nearly childlike in their playfulness and impatience. First contact was made with Q in 2364 by the starship USS Enterprise D during its first mission. The entity Q held a mock trial in which he charged that the Enterprise bridge crew was grievously savage and should not venture into space. Since that time, the Q have made several more appearances on Federation starships.
And Picard has become really, really good friends with Q, though he'd never admit to it. Until recently. Then things got very bad.
The first contact with the cybernetic race known as the Borg occurred in 2365, when a member of the Q Continuum instantly transported the USS Enterprise D to System J-25, over 7,000 light-years beyond Federation borders. They encountered a huge Borg spacecraft that attempted to assimilate the Enterprise and its crew. The Borg forces were so overwhelming that the captain of the Enterprise was forced to ask Q to save his ship by returning it to Federation space.
Later shows, specifically Enterprise, change this so that technically humanity encountered the Borg earlier. This is true in being the first instance of the Federation encountering the Borg. The Borg were already on their way. This just gave humanity a little bit of warning. Unfortunately, it wasn't heeded to the extent that it needed to be, which led to the battle at Wolf 359.
Located only 7.8 light-years from Earth, Wolf 359 was the site of a tremendous battle between Federation forces and a Borg Cube starship. The outcome was disastrous, with the loss of 39 Federation starships and 11,000 lives. The Borg ship was finally defeated when the crew of the USS Enterprise D was able to implant a command into the Borg collective that caused the ship to self-destruct.
Notably, only one vessel survived. Half the crew were dead, and many systems were left barely functioning, with the captain putting their survival down to luck. Luck that they weren't in the way when the Borg cube continued to advance through the Federation ships at Battle of Wolf 359. That ship also took part in the battle for Sector 001 when the Borg cube attacks Earth at the beginning of First Contact. Then we move on to more pertinent events with this game.
Launched in 2371 and featuring a bio-neural network computer system, the USS Voyager is the most advanced Federation starship ever built. Unfortunately, Voyager was lost in the Badlands and assumed destroyed soon after launch. In 2374, Starfleet received word that Voyager had been transported to the Delta Quadrant by an entity known as the Caretaker. Efforts are currently underway to bring Voyager and her crew home.
This does eventually happen, though it does take a very long time. Too long. And then Janeway does what Janeway does and goes to change things. But that is a completely different tale. Now let's talk about the transport barrier.
In 2372, Tom Paris, helmsman of the USS Voyager, was the first human pilot to break the transwarp threshold and achieve warp 10 velocity. Unfortunately, it was discovered that the experience has adverse effects on living beings. Paris's transwarp flight caused his cellular DNA to accelerate the evolutionary process, and he mutated into an amphibious creature. Voyager's emergency medical hologram was able to reverse the mutation and return Paris to his normal state.
Now there's an episode that has lived on in the memories of the Star Trek community. And lastly, 7 of 9.
Because of an alliance made between the USS Voyager and the Borg, a female drone known as 7 of 9 aided Voyager in the creation of a weapon that would destroy an invasion force of species 8472. During a violent encounter with species 8472, 7 of 9's cube was destroyed along with its crew, leaving her stranded on board Voyager. 7 of 9 was at first resistant to returning to human society, but she is making the difficult transition with the aid of the crew of Voyager.
7 of 9's addition to the show really changed the dynamics of the entire ship, and added loads and loads of storytelling opportunities. And I tend to misremember how much of the show she was in, because it wasn't until quite a ways into the lifetime of the Voyager story that she was added. Now let's look to stellar technology.
The Big Bang.
This one doesn't have computer voices. Theorized as the beginning of the universe, it was a massive explosion that occurred roughly 15 billion years ago, when everything was initially energy compressed into a very small, very hot area. During the first millionth of a second of the explosion, almost all energy was turned into matter, solids, liquids, and gases. It is thought that once the universe is expanded and cooled enough, it will contract back upon itself and another Big Bang will eventually occur.
Black hole.
A black hole is usually a collapsed massive star in which a huge amount of matter is packed into a very tiny area. The gravity of a black hole is so strong that nothing escapes, not even light. Normal-sized black holes are star-sized and contain the mass of several suns. Supermassive black holes are located in the center of galaxies and have a mass of billions of stars. A very tiny black hole is known as a quantum singularity.
The Drake equation.
There's an equation for you. The equation was formulated in 1961 by Dr. Frank Drake while working at the National Radio Observatory in Green Bank, West Virginia. It was created as a way to estimate the number of planets that would be technologically capable of communicating across interstellar space. With the aid of the Drake equation, it's been calculated that there are 10,000 communicative civilizations in the Milky Way alone. N is the number of communicative civilizations, R squared is the number of formation of suitable stars, FP is the fraction of those stars with planets, NE is the number of Earth-like worlds per planetary system, FL is a fraction of those Earth-like planets where life actually develops, FI is the fraction of life sites where intelligence develops, FC is the fraction of communicative planets, those on which electromagnetic communication technology develops, and L is the lifetime of communicating civilizations. Interesting formula.
Dwarf stars.
Since Earth's star is considered normal, any stars smaller than the Sun are labelled dwarfs. White dwarfs are old, dying stars that have spent all their fuel. Brown dwarfs are also known as failed stars because they were too small to become proper stars. Space is primarily populated by red dwarfs, but they shine so dimly that few can be seen with the naked eye. A red dwarf is much cooler than the temperature of the Sun.
The galaxy.
A galaxy is a grouping of stars on its own in space. The smallest galaxies contain only a few million stars and are only 1,000 light-years in size. The largest galaxies are comprised of millions upon millions of stars and span hundreds of thousands of light-years. It is currently estimated there are 100 billion galaxies in the universe. That's a lot of galaxies.
Giant stars.
While giant stars usually don't have more than 10 times the mass of Earth's Sun, they may very well be up to 100 times the diameter of the Sun. Supergiants are rare, but they can have diameters up to several hundred times the size of Earth's Sun. It is believed the Sun will expand to a red giant before collapsing to a dwarf or neutron star.
Light year.
Because space is so vast, it is common practice to measure distances in the light years. A light year is the distance light travels in 1 year. Since light moves just over 186,000 miles per second, a light year is about 5.9 trillion miles long, or 9.5 trillion kilometers long.
The Milky Way galaxy.
The Milky Way galaxy is home to the United Federation of Planets as well as many other interstellar alliances. Containing some 200 billion stars, it is 100,000 light-years across and 1,000 light-years thick. The center of the galaxy generates heat energy equivalent to 80 million suns, yet it is no larger than the orbit of Jupiter around the Sun. There's a lot of stuff here.
Nebula.
A nebula is a huge cloud of dust and gas in space. Eventually, the matter within the cloud is pulled into clumps that become stars and planets. Dark nebulae are clouds of fine dust, and bright nebulae are glowing gas.
Planets.
Planets are large spherical bodies that orbit stars but do not emit light of their own. The Federation uses a letter nomenclature to classify planets. The letter M designates a world best suited for the formation of life. The further from the letter M, the less likely the planet could support life. Class D are small rocky planets, or planetoids. Class H are extremely dry surfaces, sometimes inhabitable. Class J is a gas giant with a turbulent atmosphere. Class K, while the gravity field falls within Class M standard, the planets require the use of pressure domes to sustain life. Class L are small rocky planets with an oxygen-argon atmosphere. Class M are small rocky worlds with an oxygen-nitrogen atmosphere, best suited for the formation of organic life.
Quasars.
Quasars are very bright and extremely distant objects that proved to be nothing like stars when analysed in the 20th century. It has been determined quasars are actually the light given off by matter that is superheated as it falls into supermassive black holes at the centres of active galaxies.
Quantum singularity.
A very small black hole, a quantum singularity, has a powerful event horizon surrounding it. They have proven to be navigational obstacles to several Federation vessels. It is reported Romulans use a quantum singularity as the source of power for the warp drive engines of their starships. I wonder how we do that.
Stars.
A star is a ball of hot gas, heated from inside by nuclear fusion, turning hydrogen to helium. As energy is released, a star loses mass. Earth's sun loses 4 million tons every second. Stars range wildly in temperature and size. Some are 1,000 times the size of Earth's sun, while others are smaller than the Earth. Stars are classified by their heat and size. Red is cool, yellow is normal, blue is hot. Smaller than Earth's sun is considered a dwarf, Earth's sun is considered average. Up to 10 times bigger than the sun is a giant, over 10 times bigger than the sun is considered a supergiant.
Supernova.
Supergiants end their lives in a massive explosion called a supernova. As it blows apart, the star shines brighter than 1 billion suns. After a supernova, the remains of the star could shrink into a hot ball called a neutron star, or even fall back in on itself and become a black hole.
Temporal rift.
A temporal rift is a symmetrical tear in space and time that provides access to alternate histories. While this has only been theorized, it is possible a Kerr loop of super strong material could be generated from high energy interaction, such as energy output of multiple exploding photon torpedoes.
The universe.
The universe started with a Big Bang and will end by compressing in upon itself until another Big Bang is generated. It is theorized this process has been repeated infinitely and will continue to do so. The universe is roughly 15 billion years old and has a mean temperature of minus 454 Fahrenheit. The Federation has explored only a minuscule area of the universe, but is estimated to contain 100 billion galaxies and about 1,000 billion stars. And lastly,
Phaser.
the phaser. We're going to go to some weapons. Phaser is an acronym for Phased Energy Rectification. This weapon, also known as the pistol phaser, is standard issue for members of an away team or security team members on board ship. There are 16 different strength settings of the phaser pistol, ranging from stun to an explosive burst able to melt rock.
Compression rifle.
This weapon is also known as Phaser Type 3. It is a very powerful phaser that is seldom used on away missions because of the destructive capabilities. Only security team members or away team members going on to extremely dangerous situations are issued a phaser rifle.
Infinity modulator.
The Infinity Modulator is a hybrid of Federation and Borg technologies. Designed and built by 7 of 9, the Infinity Modulator is able to rapidly change energy burst frequencies that makes it possible for the Borg to adapt their shielding. While this device is prone to overheat, it is the only weapon that has proven consistently effective against the Borg.
Scavenger rifle.
This weapon was cobbled together using a mixture of Klingon, Hirogen, Malon and Old Federation technologies. It fires a very rapid burst of anti-protons. While a single hit from an anti-proton burst generates very little damage, the scavenger rifle fires quickly enough that the damage mounts very quickly. It is very rapid fire.
Stasis weapon.
Utilizing the same biological technology as the Etherian ships feature, the stasis weapon is a living device. It generates small projectiles of high energy photons which have minimal capacity to track a target.
Compound grenade launcher.
A weapon normally issued by Starfleet to troops only in times of war because of its capacity for great destruction. These devices allow distance and accuracy in launching Federation grenades. The grenades feature a rudimentary AI that detonates the device if it strikes an enemy, otherwise it will wait until its timer has reached 0 before detonation.
Tetryon pulse disruptor.
The Tetryon Disruptor is a Hirogen weapon that fires extremely rapid bursts of phased Tetrions. It was discovered that this device caused damage to human tissue due to radiation leaks, but this was corrected by Perfecto, the Voyager weapons specialist. I'm glad he did correct it. Then,
Photon burst.
7 of 9 Tuvok and Oviedo Perfecto developed this weapon. It fires a miniature photon torpedo capable of immense destruction. Captain Janeway is the only one aboard Voyager who can authorize the use of photon burst by an away team. I'm glad for that.
Arc welder.
The arc welder was a tool discovered by Ensign Munro while on a hazard mission aboard the Dreadnought gunship. It is theorized to be a welding tool, but it has proven to be a most effective weapon. It is capable of generating a powerful lightning bolt of pure anti-protons. And with that, we have checked everything. Good news, Chakotay! No Neelix cheese in the library archives. Were you watching me check that the entire time? I'm not suspicious, okay? I'm just scanning for Neelix cheese. It's important. We've got to be on the lookout. Neelix cheese can strike anywhere, at any time. Look, there's no Neelix cheese in this railing, and there's no Lelix cheese in the floor, if you're going to keep watching me, I'm going to leave. I might even press that button, but not yet. I will definitely press it though. And when we come back, folks, we will go back to the mess hall level and go check out Harry Kim's room. And then we'll go to other levels and check out other things. But that will be for next time. It's been fun to read all of this. Fun to delve into the history of Star Trek and even learn some things about science. It's always a good day to learn something. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you're not. If you are subscribed, press that bell for those notifications. And I'll catch you next time, folks. And I'll see you then. Later. Now, if you excuse me, I'm going to scan this for Neelix cheese. That is a chair. It has no Neelix cheese. Good. Might be a watch, Kote.